Hey, it's White Boy Chris. If the Pat Downs ever made you laugh, then join our Patreon and support us. Get bonus content, a t-shirt, or an autographed copy of Rabbit, Miss Pat's autobiography. Visit MissPatComedy.com for the link to the Patreon, and while you're there, join our Facebook group.
Welcome to another episode of the Pat Down. I'm here because we got guests today, baby. I didn't do this. We got Chris, we got Deon, we got Trent, we got Garrianna, and we talking about some real shit. We're letting Chris have it from the back.
Do you remember what we talked about?
No.
We talked about Trump's comments on
we're talking about some real shit. Trent wanted to know, how do we determine if we're black?
That is not who wanted to know.
Chris wanted to know.
I wanted to know, yeah. I was trying to figure it out.
You said Trent.
I said Chris wanted to know.
You said Trent, beloved.
Edit that.
Chris wanted to know.
Cut that out.
Edit it and put Chris there.
because Chris wanted to know.
Because Chris wanted to know, when do we know we black in America?
You better get up, get out, and tune in to this podcast. This Pat spit the truth, spit the real fact. Nothing but the ugly, classy at the same time. Pat got the flavor, these are not your same lines. That's the politics, she been on the real grind. It could be pretty but ugly at the same time. Just tune in, put your lock on the spin down. Ain't no need for the wait and turn it up now. What you talking about? Is it real though? And cut the game, you get no play like Nintendo. You wasted time, turn it up, nothing but the ugly. Straight off the top, everything she say, you know it's funny. Full blast, this a taste of the future. Listen on your iPhone, on your desktop computer. Share it, tweet it, ain't no way to beat it. Nothing but the ugly, turn it up and gon' repeat it.
Welcome to another episode of the Pat Down. We here with my co-host Chris Spangle, Deon Curry.
What's up, y'all?
And we got two fucking guests today. That's how we do it. We got two guests. Give it up for Trenton. Woo! And we got, guess who we got, y'all? We got Garrianna. Which is rare. Yeah. We hardly get her ass on this podcast. We so happy you up today, Garrianna. She usually sleep.
I'm up every single day. Don't ever do that to me. You're so disrespectful. Why would you start the podcast trying to disrespect me? Just because I don't wake up at 4 a.m. like you, because I don't have that sleep apnea that stops my heart. Okay, I wake up every single day at 10 o'clock like a good, respectful. She saw her life fly before her life.
What is that?
That's your sleep apnea.
I don't got no fucking sleep apnea.
Okay, sure.
I have something called menopause.
And it paused your heart in your sleep.
I just hit my fucking knee.
Garrianna is so funny.
Get on my fucking nerves.
You get on my nerve. You always make an assumption. You know what? You know what they say about people who assume? They die early.
You heard that before.
Because you're not minding your business. Mm-hmm.
You heard that before, Trent.
I never heard that.
You got a grandmama. She ever told you that bullshit?
No. She didn't tell me that.
I'm wiser than
She
grandma.
said the first three letters of assume is what you make of yourself when you do assume.
Amen.
What is that?
Amen.
Ass.
Make an ass of you.
You make an ass of yourself when you assume.
That's what my daddy said.
Oh, you ain't got no grandmama, so I know that ain't what your grandmama said.
I do have a grandma. Not your mama, but my grandmama.
Take her grandmama.
I do have a grandma.
Oh, I forgot you did have one grandmama.
Yes, I did. Don't ever do that to me.
You didn't meet my mama.
I'm happy to have not.
Well, fuck.
Huh? She didn't do a great job across the board. Bad. I hate a whole.
She raised two comedians.
Ooh, oh.
Your sister.
That was a good one. So we invited Trent over, and Garrianna came out of the bedroom because I don't know why, but I'm glad to have you here. And what we were talking about, what are we going to talk about?
So I had a question because
thank you.
All right, I have a lot of right wing Twitter. All right, so I don't oftentimes know what's real because
Formerly known as Twitter.
The algorithm knows you.
Thank you. Yeah, and so Trump said at the National Association of Black Journalists that Kamala became black. All right. And this was based on a CNN interview that was done where this guy in a Tupac shirt shows up. He's a white reporter, shows up to a black barbershop and asks if Kamala's black. And the guys at the barbershop said, I don't think so. I don't know. And so Trump kind of came out of that. But then, like, I saw the conversation on Black Instagram accounts in the comments of
Turn my headphone on.
largely Black accounts having that conversation of like her ethnicity, and then obviously it was a whole conversation, and I don't quite understand.
My headphones ain't on.
What it means to be Black. Is like that a cultural thing? Is that a skin color thing? Like growing up, it was always like you're just Black if you're Black. So this whole conversation, I think, has been kind of confusing, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear you all discuss it for listeners who don't have any conversation.
Well, before we
about
discuss it, how do you feel about it?
I think doing this podcast, I didn't realize Black is a culture.
Oh, you didn't think we had culture? Continue.
Well, I knew like BET existed.
Tyler Perry, all you hoes got. That's
But
great.
Garrianna, you went to the same high school as me. Like,
Yes, I did.
when I was in high school, we had one girl who had a white mom and a Black dad. Like that was the
So what did you
the
consider
extent
her?
of the ethnicity. So I didn't like have
Monkey light.
like there was rap music
fuck
and
you
things.
say?
But
What was it?
I need headphones. I can't hear anything.
What he consider her?
I said monkey light.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
All right, I gotta go.
No, you don't. That's Garrianna.
No, but I think to me, if you're in the position of like a suburban white person that doesn't have any interaction with Black friends,
Okay.
you just sort of look at
Black
hip hop and maybe Spike Lee movies and sort of like that is your access to Black culture or BET. No, but it's not as.
Let me stop you right there. That's not your access. You have access to the history of Black people in America. You only see BET because that's what you look for.
Right. So
I just want to make that distinction. You have access to all of the history of Black people up until this moment. What you choose to do with it is on you.
So, but doing this podcast and having a lot of Black friends now and being a participant
Congrats
in
on
the
the
show.
friends.
Yes, I've got many Black friends now.
Not a
You
lot of
see the
people say.
richness and the depth of Black culture, and you appreciate things a lot more. And so it's interesting to me just to see this conversation with this new lens and trying to understand it, but also not understanding, all right, is this just right-wing propaganda that everybody's divided about her race and all this stuff? Or is this an actual conversation that goes on in the Black community that you're not really aware of? If you're
I'm gonna start, and I know everybody's gonna take. We're the only race in this world. That
Don't
you
say
can't-
that.
Yes, we are.
I hate when people start off with we're the only race. Do you know all the races?
Not all of them, but quite a few.
There's
of them
only
that I
one
see.
race, is humans.
Yeah, it's human.
Black is the color of your skin labeled by a government
we're-
entity.
We're the only people that you cannot change. Whatever we mix with, you become us. Am I right?
I think I'm a testament to that, right, Miss Pat?
No. Ain't nobody gave you
I
no
guess
pussy
what I'm
right here.
saying is that you were on Twitter and you saw all this interaction. What does your Twitter say to combat that? Because now you have new lenses. Now you see through that. You see the culture differently. What does your Twitter say to combat some of the things that the other people
You're
are
not
saying?
gonna argue with those crazy ass
I'm
people.
saying, like, if you're
No,
on
he can have his own
Hollywood
mindset.
Unlocked or the Shade Room and you read the comments through the stuff to try and understand it, like,
That's the worst of our people right there.
I don't know.
And the shade room comments.
Sexy Red is not our president. She does not speak for us.
she make good music.
She make good music. Shout out to Sexy Red.
I would say as a Black woman here in America, when I look at Kamala.
Like,
When I look at
like
Kamala.
comma.
When I look at Kamala, we
syllables.
see a Black woman.
Right.
You know, I never look at biracial people mixed with something else. You know, I don't say you Black and you Asian. Tiger Woods is Black to me. Motherfucking Kamala Harris is Black to me.
And they treated him like that because you think that man killed somebody. He was just cheating on his wife a couple times. But the way they had it planned, every week there was a new blonde white woman, you thought that he killed people.
So I mean, I think as a Black community, we don't see the mixture. We just see Black. I know for me, that's what I see.
But across that's not the overarching thought for a lot of Black people. Some Black people do believe that like Black is just like mama, daddy Black, grandma, grandpa Black. Like this is Black. Probably all of us on this side. And then like when you become mixed, because some of the times like you live outside of what is considered like a black community, then now you're not black anymore.
That's the thing that it's like she can't have both identities and be proud of both identities. It's like that's what Trump is implying is she can't be one. She can't be all things.
But he doesn't go after anybody else's ethnicity when they do anything.
Of course
It's
not,
only like people that's black, like Obama. He want him to produce birth certificates and all that stuff. Why is that important in this?
We don't got to prove our
because
black.
he's a racist.
Yeah,
So you do agree he is a racist?
Absolutely.
Okay,
you don't
okay.
have to prove
That's
your
why he said
blackness
it.
to
To
anybody.
anybody. They
You don't have
live
to
it.
prove no matter what race you are to anybody.
Right.
You really don't. So,
Because if you feel like you're black on the inside, she went to HBCUs, she feels like she black, then that is what she is.
well, let me
Like,
ask you something, Gary. You was raised in a predominantly white neighborhood. Did you ever feel white?
No. They made sure I didn't feel white. You moved me to a town full of all racist people. I never felt
I think the perfect.
white.
You said it. They made sure I didn't feel that way, and I think that's been the policy of America is to make sure that you know
your
you ain't
blackness.
one of us.
And you know your place.
Yeah, huh? So,
Wow.
So whenever you get a black American trying to assimilate into American culture, you have to de-niggerize them. You take away everything that makes them black culturally in order for them to fit into the American box.
So no fatness. You can't get loud. You can't play spade. You can't.
are you just naming yourself?
You can't eat neck bones, ham hocks.
Yeah, I'd ask Deon like describe that for me because what does that mean?
So basically, you have to shuck and jive. You have to be like the Republican Tim
short
Scott,
teeth
Tim
nigga.
Scott, that
The
guy,
short
or
teeth nigga.
the big tall yelling angry black people. We got to get our the guy from South Carolina, I think it is the lieutenant governor Robinson. What's his name? Big tall black dude.
The big
I don't know
black
who that
pastor
is.
too. The
It's like you
black
got to
pastor.
sell out your people in order for this other group of people to see you as one of them. That's what being American means to white America.
making white
For
America.
black people, is
great.
if you go over there and you try to assimilate and be a part of their society, they're going to strip you of everything that you were before, so that you can be that.
I mean, the plot of Get Out
Because
is
you talk about black culture.
That's like Jordan
Black culture is American culture because we're Americans. But you put this label on it, not you specifically, but
They
you
say
put this
they.
label on it
Society.
as black culture instead of just American culture. Well, then I ask you, well, what's American culture outside of black culture?
Stadium hot dogs.
Right.
that's all you got.
So if you're having a barbecue and all you're making is stadium hot dogs, and then you go to a black barbecue and they got ribs and all the
Potato
other
salad.
fixings and stuff, it's like, well, is that not American too? No, that's black American. So you have to give up the ribs and go get the hot dogs if you want to be
Stadium
considered
hot
American.
dogs.
And every black person that's born in this country knows the second you go over there, you cannot come back. Because you killed yourself. You literally killed you. You told the people who raised you
Rest in
that they weren't good enough, and that I have to ascend and assimilate into an American culture that sees me not as a black American, but just as American. You have to kill your blackness. That's why we can't stand Candace Owens. We can't stand Tim Scott, because they killed their blackness in order to fit in with people who are always going to see them as black
Niggers.
people, regardless of the quote unquote American culture they
No
try
matter
to
how well you
espouse.
talk, no
Vivek
matter-
Ramaswamy, what did Ann Coulter say to him? You're great, but you're not white, so you're not going to win. And that's the bottom line.
Who?
Ann Coulter said that to the Ramaswamy. There was a guy who wasn't. He looked a little bit like Vivek Ramaswamy. He went to the RNC and was taking pictures with all these people. They thought it was Vivek until he tried to get up on stage and Secret Service was like, "Where are your credentials?" And then they threw him out.
No, it's a real, like in the Republican Party back in like 20 years ago when I was in it, I had a friend who was a black Republican, and people would come up to him at the convention and say, you know, thank you so much for being here. We need more of you here. And he was just like, well, I guess I'll go tell the rest of them at the black meeting that we can blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just, it's that attitude of they think they're being inclusive, but they're coming across as like just totally racist.
Because it's not inclusive. You have to give up who you are in order to be included into what they think you are.
Yeah.
And black people don't play that shit. You are either always black or you go over there, but you can't bring your ass back.
you know, have you guys
Stacey
ever,
Dash, what's the other girl? Who was playing? She was Omarosa. They try to come back. We're not having that shit. No, y'all went over there. You fucked around, and now
What's
you're
the bald
finding
head one who just went over there? Raps. What's her name?
Amber Rose.
Amber Rose.
Oh, she.
I find it interesting that like the concept of over there. Like, is that just adopting Republican politics? Is that what you mean?
No, because, and also I would like to speak on Amber Rose. Amber Rose does not see herself as being a black woman. She will tell you up and down that she is not black. So to sit here and then be like, this is the problem with the black community. How do you know what our problem is when you, Amber Rose, don't consider yourself black? Even though you came up and became popular in black spaces. You dated one of our most famous black men. Matter of fact, two of them, and had a baby by one of them. You've always dibbled and dabbled in blackness, but now you're not black. And so that's crazy to me.
You use it to come up, but then once you get in a position where you could actually help
Almost
people.
like J-Lo.
What?
Sure,
Dating
I get
Puff
that.
Daddy. When J-Lo started dating Puff Daddy, it made the black community love her. We immediately got on the J-Lo train. Come on now. That's what made J-Lo popular in the black community when Puff Daddy gave her that
I
nigga
think her
card.
ass made her popular in the black community.
Well, she had an ass like us too.
Probably both.
When I first heard of J-Lo, no lie, I hadn't even seen the Selena movie. When the first time I ever heard of Jennifer Lopez is when she was dating Puff Daddy.
Was she on In Living Color? She was a
Yeah,
dancer.
she was a
Oh,
dancer.
She's a
she sure
dancer.
was,
But no
you
one
know
looks
what?
at the dances like
Nobody
that.
paid her any attention on 11 Color.
She didn't have any speaking parts either.
She just was a dancer. So we was like, okay, and be honest with you, back in those days, okay, that white girl can dance. Didn't even realize she was fucking Hispanic.
Oh, J-Lo was white.
Well, I was a little girl. Everybody was white.
Well,
I thought
right.
America Ferrera was black growing up.
Who?
I used to see her stuff. America Ferrera, she's an actor. She was on Ugly Betty. I thought, oh, okay, we kind of the same. I thought she was black because I went to like a black school. I went to school with black and white people. I didn't see a lot of Latinos, so I said, oh, she's just black. Oh, buddy. And then they started speaking Spanish. I said, hey, what's
And
this?
you gotta remember, I'm 52, so the Hispanic population wasn't big like it is now in America. We didn't see a lot of. The first real Mexican I ever really saw, the first Mexican I ever really knew that was a Mexican was a show called Chips. Remember Chips? The police out. So you loved him because he was, Chips was fucking Hispanic. But then when I saw a real Mexican, like, interact with black people, when my cousin used to sell him pussy and she got pregnant by him and had 3 kids.
It's like in the 90s, it's John Leguizamo everywhere.
Yeah, so I didn't know
And then
any.
you got to be careful with that too, because Mexicans and Latinos, all them, they see themselves in different lights.
They do.
Because they could all come from different
Yeah.
countries, different cultures.
Yeah.
Just
It's like
shared language.
we're not Africans, we're Africans American because we I always say we the ones that got caught.
So back to my question of like
Anyhow.
going over there. Is it a political thing? Is
It's
it?
an
would you articulate
idea. I think it's like like, have you ever heard of the Frantz Fanon book, like Black Skin, White Mask? And the idea that black people have to wear a white mask to be able to succeed in society, code switching and that
Right.
idea. Okay, it's like keeping the mask on forever. So at a certain point, you've just become that. Like, that is you now. Like, it's instead of like wearing this outside just to please white people so you can get through your day and do whatever you need to do in your life, you've ingrained that into your spirit, into your soul. So that's just you now.
Yeah.
And it's like a cultural and ideological shift, because I think we're all people, sure, but like how black American people and how black people, even from the diaspora, see things in the world, white people might never ever see it like that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can spend time with black people, you can talk to black people, you still won't get it because it's something that we live in. Okay, just like a gay person can tell you their experience in life, but you don't get it completely because you're not gay.
Or a woman,
So
right.
yeah, or a woman or anybody who lives in a marginalized perspective in life. So I think it's an ideological shift and like a spiritual shift. And once you go there, even if you do come back around, I just don't believe you, because I'm like, you were so fine selling a part of yourself to be a part of something that I don't think you're real. I think inherently your heart is black now. It's cold.
So I want to say that even like in Hollywood, like, to me, the biggest fear for me going to Hollywood is to not be who I am. I'm me. I don't know how to be nothing else. I didn't go to Hollywood as an actor. I went to Hollywood as a comedian, and I was one of the things I always thought I always thought they wanted me to be this goofy ass fat girl because that's what they turn them to. They turn them, oh, I'm so fat and I'm so happy. And I remember being in a meeting with, I'm the only black person sitting there with, that was time with Lee Daniel and my manager. And I said, what I will not be, and there was a risk, is the typical fat girl. I'm not going to hit no cartwheels. You're not going to hit me in my face with no pie. You're not going to make fat jokes about me. And we're not going to create a show like that.
Can I ask you, why did they make big girls be the pie face people? Do you know why that happened?
I don't know why that happened. I think it's to make people comfortable. To make us say, you fat, but you're so lovely. Like I see fat comedians and they're like, oh, that me. And I'm like, come on, bitch. I mean, I'm fat. But, we all see
you're not fat, you're voluptuous.
Whatever. We all see issues with ourselves. Mm-hmm. I don't like being fat. I'm fat because I like to eat and I'm fucking lazy.
So playing into stereotypes as opposed to finding your own voice. Like very little has changed about you in the last 5 years as opposed to like...
It's not about her finding her own voice. It's about people not being comfortable because they haven't had access to her voice. Yes. Because every person that looked like her was getting hit in the face with a pie because they have focus groups to go, we just don't think our audience is really gonna appreciate that type of perspective. So why don't we bring in some more people who have a more universal appeal? And that's what happens.
And I think like, and I'm gonna give a prime example, my show, which is like, to me, the realest black show we ever had on TV. And they gave me hell when this show first came out. And my biggest fear is somebody white is going to come and create this same show. Somebody white is going to create this same show and they'll end up somewhere on CBS, NBC, a bigger network. When I came out with the show, oh my God, you talking like that? Oh my God, we can't accept stuff like that because...
You don't want them to Bo Derek your show. Where she put braids in and all of a sudden it's a rage. But you already had braids and you was already doing it. But then they brought in Bo Derek and now all of a sudden, oh my God, it's the most...
That's actually the same thing I have with Living Single because like the guy who created Friends was like, they asked him like, what kind of show would you want to have on TV? He was like, I would like a show like Living Single. And then next thing you know, it's Friends and it's one of the hottest shows on TV. And they get paid more and they have all the reruns.
And you know why? Because our focus group says that this has more universal. They can sell more bullshit with white people than they can with black people because the majority of white people have zero interaction on the day-to-day with regular ass black people.
So I can pull this up if I go so far back in my old email. So when we first wrote the book, Rabbit, it was heavily on what I had been through in life with my first kid's father, the abuse. It told a nitty-gritty story. I'll never forget this shit. We spent a year and a half writing it, and she sent it back because I was supposed to get a payment. I was ready to whoop that lady ass. Make a long story. All I think about was the money, and then because I had to open up so much of me to tell that story, and I cried. Me and Janine cried, and I told secrets that I thought I would take to my grave, and some stuff I took back out of the book. We wrote this, and the lady who was over the book said, this will make white women uncomfortable. I swear my hand to God. She said, throw it in the trash and start over. We need more funny because you don't want to make white America cry. Because if this is what she told me. She said, because if white America cry, they ain't going to tell nobody to buy the book. So we went back and rewrote the book Rabbit to make, and it's still gritty, but it's enough gritty that white America could shed a few tears and not to say, to think about all the shit black America have done. One of the biggest thing all the shit that white America have done to the black culture. One of the biggest things I got out of that book were white women emailing me or finding me on thing. It lived in Atlanta and say, I lived in Marietta and I had no idea this was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you tangentially. We'd run into each other at Bob and Tom, but I read it because you came on Bob and Tom, and it was like a light bulb for me. It made me interested in your story and you, and I was fascinated by it. And what's funny is that's kind of, now you can't sell a memoir if there's not that kind of grit and overcoming, right? Like it has changed because there's an appetite more for these kind of stories of like, hey,
But
tell me the truth.
That's what was shocking to me. That's why I never really wanted to act, because I was so scared of they was gonna strip me of who I was, and I like who I am. I don't give a fuck about having 9 degrees. I think I've made the Americans' mistake. I made mistakes in my life. I've done wrong in my life, but I also had 4 kids where one of them graduated from college several times, and everybody got something that I still wish I had to this day, which is a fucking high school diploma. Each one of my kids went to prom that probably didn't want to go, but I asked them to go for me. So I never got I never got a chance to experience prom myself, but I was able to live it each time I picked out a dress, or I picked out a suit, or I chose a car. You know, that's what my kids did for me. And that's what I was scared that I was going to lose, that I had to go up here and talk proper or be something that I'm not. I don't know how to be that. And that's Hollywood scared the fuck out of me. I remember talking to Gary and I said, I don't want to be famous. And he said, why? I said, because I really thought I was too stupid and white. I was not going to be able to hold a conversation with white America. I thought I was going to go into these meetings and they was going to fucking belittle me. I thought they was going to see the uneducated 8th grade little black girl in the room with a whole bunch of educated white people. That was my fear. That's why I didn't want fame.
How did you get over that fear though?
She learned they the same. They the same.
I don't think they're
she's not unintelligent. She don't have
not
paper backing up her
shot.
intelligence, but she ain't stupid. And that's what it is. You get these people who think, oh, I've got 9 degrees. All of a sudden I'm smarter than the next person. Like, no, it just shows that you did more work academically than I did. That you can prove. It doesn't mean you're smarter than me. It doesn't mean that I'm unintelligent because I don't have this shit. It just means that you did more work academically.
But you do understand how somebody can feel like that though, right?
Yes.
And that's where being raised proper comes along. Because if you know in your heart that we're
But
all
if you're
humans,
not raised properly.
well,
the way I
she
got
had the
over
courage.
The way I got over it is I had these conversations. I used to tell a bit about it. And, my mama instilled this shit into me, that I wasn't shit. And then I go off into the world and, one of the things I started to do was surround myself around educated people, because I know I didn't speak the correct language, and I still don't. Now I don't really give a fuck about it. I just didn't want people to think I was stupid and dumb when I had already raised 2 kids by the time I was 15, and my kids was not headed to where I went to. So, having that conversation with my husband, and he just told me one day, he said, Pat, everybody's the same. Just because a person is more educated than you don't mean that they're smarter than you. And I look around now, I'm here with an 8th grade education, and I made more money than all of my friends who got fucking degrees.
Amen.
And I know that I'm not as dumb as I was taught that I was dumb. And I know I can hold a conversation. I remember the biggest thing, one of the biggest coming up in this world of entertainment, I had to go do an interview with Joe Rogan. And I heard Joe Rogan was so smart. And I was like,
really. I think Joe Rogan is so dense. It's kind of crazy.
But
brain.
I was so scared to have a conversation with Joe Rogan because I just felt like he was going to outsmart me. And I remember getting booked for the interview, and I was like, I'm not smart enough to talk to this man. And my inner soul said, well, bring him down to your conversation. You control the conversation. Well, if you bring him into your world, there's nothing else you can do. And I started, and what I loved about talking to Joe Rogan talks to everybody on every scales of life. He was able to sit there and have a conversation with somebody totally different from him. Totally different, and and not one time did I ever felt like he was putting me down. Not one time did I ever feel like I was uneducated and I was too dumb to have this conversation with almost one of the smartest people I thought I had ever sat down with.
Sit down with more people.
Moving on, I would say, like growing up and maturing is understanding the complexity of the world, and not everything has to fit into these simplistic notions of intelligence or race or whatever, right? Like there's so much complexity to the world. You're so brilliant at so many different things and so intelligent just because you like may not have this. Like I think that's that paper that says it. I think is probably again kind of what you're talking about is like this is supposedly the white standard of intelligence is that you've achieved this, and because you have not achieved that,
Well,
you know.
I have a question because Trent, you're gay. So
What?
As you mentioned, okay, go ahead.
That's crazy. There's nothing else interesting. He's also a good person.
I mean,
and a great man.
but you, I'm quite sure you felt the same way in situations like I did. I mean, just what mine was education. I'm quite sure you felt the same way with your sexuality.
I don't know, but I also grew up being told I'm going to be shit and all of this stuff. But it's what you say about yourself that matters the most. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like you. I surrounded myself with people that could help me grow in certain areas. And when you speak about yourself, I, for one, get a chance to watch you. Pat know how to close a deal. Pat know how to get things done. I told Pat, I said, you have mastered the art of getting exactly what you need done without all the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? I've watched actors and people, number ones who've been in the business forever, who can't even get a ride to work.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at The Color Purple when everybody was having issues with, having to drive themselves and do stuff. Pat, get out here and make it happen, because I always say this for myself, that God give you something to compete with in this world. It may not be what Pat got. It may not be what you got, but he does not leave you out. He gives you something to compete with, and what he gave you was more than a degree could give you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So he took you through certain life experiences that now you know how to negotiate. You know what you ain't going to take. You know what is fair and what ain't fair. So it all works out in the end. And when we judging people by what we think they should be or how they should be, we be missing out on good shit.
Go ahead.
Pat knows what she deserves and fights for it.
Yeah.
Like it, and it's influencing
And
me
a
a lot.
degree can't teach that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I joked in a previous episode of, well, maybe you just haven't been aggressive enough. I think you got a little defensive, but that's one of the things that I admire most about you and that has taught me. I'm sitting here thinking about where am I going to take my career, and what do I really want to do? What do I want to really fight for? As opposed to just sort of going, well, what does anybody have to offer me? Where could I fit in? And instead of going, what am I built for? What am I meant to do? And start asking for. And it even comes down to I went to McDonald's a month ago and the food was horrible, and I never ever would have gone back in and said, you need to redo this. This is horrible. Because I wouldn't want to make anybody mad, wouldn't want to upset anybody. And I was like, you know what? I paid money for this, and I deserve to have the quality that I expect. And it's their job to make me happy. And that is a direct result of me having a conversation in the car of what would Pat do? What would Pat ask for herself? Because she deserves this X, Y, and Z. That, I think, to me has been a motivator, and I think to a lot of our audience too.
Absolutely. Because I always joke with Pat. I said, girl, you got something else going on. Because they said, her assistant hit me up, Pat needs you in the morning. I said, what else is she doing? But I'm really inspired by it, because she does not, her mind doesn't rest. Hey, I got to figure this out. I got to get this done, and I got to get this done. You know what I'm saying? So it's an amazing thing to have.
Yeah, I think what you said is God built you for something. And instead of being afraid of it, own it and pursue it.
You overcame your can't. You overcame your can't. People tell you can't do this because you didn't have the paper that says that you graduated high school, but you overcame that. It was never about whether it was inside of you or not. It's just once people meet you and they see the real you, it's like
and
a
not
light
that
bulb
shit
goes
Funky
on.
Deneva was talking about.
Oh shit!
You know what I'm saying? Not that.
What'd she say?
I don't know what she said. What she
She
said?
said I was a very bad person to work with, and when and I didn't never want to bring her up on the podcast, but when she said that morning, I was walked in and I was like, I didn't have an attitude. I was playing like that. And when I had that conversation with Jordan said, that's why I tell you not to come in and play like that, because your cast know you're playing, but the co-stars, company don't know. And that really affected me, because I know it didn't really it kind of it rattled me because I know how hard I work for everybody on that set. I don't give a fuck if you in costume, you in makeup, you in whatever. I just had this whole fight with a production over paying Trent for something they said they was gonna pay him for him, and I said I'm not gonna let it go. If you don't pay them, I'm gonna pay them. I said because you just because you got that kind of money, everybody else don't have that kind of money. Right. And people tell me all the time, well you the number one, you the star. I don't give a fuck who I am. I know what it is when I want my money. I know what it is not to have somebody fight for you. Yeah. I walk on that set and I speak to everybody. So for that person to say that about me when it's never been said about me before, I'm like, you don't know how hard I fought for you. No. When you came on the show, you don't know what I did. I went to Jordan and we made a decision about you. To even give you more. But it's okay. You know, when people don't know that you're fighting for them and then they just want to have a conversation on the internet, it's fine with me.
I'm not aware of what you're talking about, but I know there was a viral video of you being tough on some people. But like, that's the thing is what I've noticed in the last 5 years is, yeah, you are tough, but you have, I think, gained a measure of empathy and interacting with people and how you talk to me. Like, I was really intimidated back in the day, and I'm just kind of intimidated. Like, I think, but it comes from you having standards and saying, like, here are the standards, and here's what you need to meet, and like, hey, you didn't edit that right. You know, it doesn't always feel good, but it is how you get what you want. You have to enforce those standards.
She's just like a big bad kid sometimes, and she'll throw a tantrum. It's like, oh, okay, when are you gonna stop? Okay, you done? So now, what do you actually want? And like once you get down to that she's just a big, like if you went to school and you know like the hot Cheeto girls, you know, the girls who came to school and they like Cookie Monster pajamas, ate hot Cheetos for breakfast and drunk a Monster. Yeah. That's how she is. Exactly. Down to the head pat. Well, that's how she comes in.
Let me say this because you brought up something else, which is V103. When we was let go from V103, people took it as like I was angry. I was not angry. Let me just say this, that I didn't get to say this on the Breakfast Club. I literally had a 2-day contract with V103. All I had to be there was 2 days. But I said, I know we can't build a good morning show off of 2 days. I said, I'll take the 2-day contract because they offer 5, but I didn't want to say I can do 5 because I know I can't. I said, but if there are any extra days in there that I can come in, I'm going to get up out of my bed for 3 days a week for free to come into this station to do what we wanted to do. And it's hard. That wasn't my show, but it's hard when you work with somebody who don't have the same work ethic. I went to Big Tigger and I told him I was leaving in August, and then they fired us in October. That pissed me off because all you had to do was let me ride out my contract. On top of that, when you working with somebody that don't have your same work ethic and is not there and it's not my show, and I told him, I said this many times in meetings. I said this is the only thing that I'm not number one in.
I work for a non-competitive, non-competing radio show, and you would call me all the time and say, "What do we got to do?" Yes. I'll put my own money to this to make this successful. And I'd say, here's what you should think about.
And I feel like that's one of your biggest problems, which is that you put in more effort on things than people want to put in on themselves. Yeah. It's his show. It was not Miss Pat Morning show. It was Big Tick Morning show. If you don't want to work
although
for
Miss Pat Morning show sounds nice.
Yeah.
Can I be a co-host?
And so, and I feel like that's across the board with a lot of stuff. Like you pour into your goofy, ugly son. That's a waste of time too.
Oh my God.
You heard that? Exactly.
You see him walk in, and he brought that dog in, and that dog's gonna trip and break a camera.
That dog looked like a rat, just like him.
Personally, I'm grateful she takes care of sad sacks.
I mean, I just, I try to pour into people. I try to tell people all the time, you don't. I speak to people randomly all the time because you don't know when somebody just needs somebody to say good morning, somebody to make them feel a little bit better. I always try to pour into whatever I do. I try to give 150%. And when I went to that morning show and I really wanted to win, and then you got to work there through a whole nother year of contract when the person don't feel the same way. That's why I was so angry, because I'm the person that got up and came to work for you for 3 days, easily, for free. And you didn't offer me shit. I mean, you offered to get me fired when you knew the contract was up anyway and I wasn't going to come back. All you had to do was let me ride it out. I felt like you was a sneaky, low down, dirty, hating piece of shit.
All right, well, let's wrap it up.
Our
Damn.
colanders, people. And once we learn that, we get better in the world. You're welcome.
Wow.
And we do. And, but sometimes you can't. Me as a person sometimes going to have to learn how to stop trying to pour into people what I pour into myself because everybody don't want their cup full.
They don't.
And with that said, we're going to end this podcast.
MissPatComedy.com.
Go to MissPatComedy.com for all the tickets to my tour. I need y'all like a baby need Pampers. So go and get your tickets.
And wipes.
You can let the shit stick on sometime. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of The Pat Down. Make sure you check out my website at MissPatComedy.com for all of my social media, my tour dates, my book. Make sure you spread the word about my podcast. Please rate and review. Please rate and review and share. Thank y'all so much, y'all. I've been Miss Pat.